use of social media to spread fake news has caused untold hardship to those at the receiving end, such as was seen during the administration of the ongoing COVID-19 vaccine, introduction of the 5G network, and the recent U.S. elections, amongst others. This practice is not left out in Nigeria, as it was the situation during the NSAS protest that took place in October of 2020.
The proliferation of information dissemination through the social media was welcomed globally as a good innovation. However, it has been used to portray events truly or wrongly, like the events that took place right here in 2020.
Instances such as the picture of a lady whose two brothers were killed, Catholic bishops joining the protest, the narrative that raising the Nigerian flag stops a soldier from hurting one, and videos of a presidential spokesman calling the protest a child's play, as well as a mall being looted after xenophobic attacks dominated the social media space, but all of which were later found to be fake.
Fake news have always posed, a danger to society. It's been as long as mankind, and it has the capacity to destroy communities, to cause war, to cause conflict, to inflict pain on families, to inflict pain on business owners. It really can be used to do very dangerous things.
Fake news is just one of those things that I believe is probably the most dangerous thing to the online community today. And the danger is on so many levels.
But how can this be curtailed moving forward?
To do that effectively, you need a lot of intelligent social engineers that will find a way to leverage on that technology to rather propagate a sense of community among Nigerians, rather than these divisive tendencies that we see on social media that will ultimately lead to chaos and anarchy.
Trust, but verify. Whatever the source, please verify before you send it along.
We can embark on educating the people who use social media or messaging app, and say when a message is shared with you or shared on WhatsApp or on Twitter or on Facebook, try and ask questions before you start pushing those messages forward.
As time goes by, with more people being connected to the internet and social media platforms, there is the need for restraint and verification before sharing materials on social media to avoid damage to society using a tool meant for social advancement. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
Well, three prominent NSAS campaigners join us on the program this morning. Rinu is also incidentally a member of the Lagos NSAS panel. She joins us virtually, as well as Okwayemi Ojo, who joins us virtually. And right here in our studio, we have Tosin Olubenga. Well, thank you for joining us on the program. Let me begin with Rinu. And I'll start off from the point we ended with Mr. Ebolo Adebarua, the NSAS 545 demands. And, the items were quite, they were straightforward. They were simple enough. And that was a document that the protesters at that point gave the government to work with. And I know to a large extent that will form the marking scheme of how well the government has done in regards to the demands that were put forward then. So looking at the 545 demands, Rinu, how well would you say we have performed in achieving them?
I'd start with the fact that it's a known fact that the NSAS protest started due to wide-ranging reasons. But the most encompassing is the fact that people lost trust in the government. These panels are supposed to restore hopes back into the hearts of people. Now, some of these panels have ended, but did they succeed in restoring hope back, or just reinforce the thought that justice did not get meted out, especially to corrupt police officers in Nigeria? It's a known fact that panels set up in the country before the protests, including the infamous presidential panel recommendations, are yet to see the light of the day. The question we should be asking is, with the Nigerian government, despite the gaslighting and whitewashing that has happened at many panels, and the fact that even many panels, including the Abuja panel, refused to sit until young protesters threatened fresh protests this month. Then they started sitting. Will the Nigerian government let us embark on the path to policing reforms, or will it, as usual, ignore the reports and continue to profit from the humiliation of Nigerian citizens? I say with all confidence that I do not think that the Nigerian government possesses the political will to end police brutality. Why? Because they benefit from our indignity. Lack of proactive action, political will, and implementation of policies, what is wrong with us? We lack external accountability mechanism. From October last year till now, are police officers across Nigeria not still extorting Nigerian citizens, harassing them? Just in September alone, from reports that I know of, over 10 young Nigerians were killed extrajudicially by police officers across Nigeria. We should ask our policymakers, are they focused on ending police brutality? From the panels, are we paying victims, no matter how small the amount is, for the injustice meted out to them, and letting the criminals who got them in this situation in the first place go with a pat on the back? Or are we making sure that we set systems that ensure that cases of police brutality are reduced drastically? Thank you very much.
Having sat through the Lagos panel particularly, I know you can speak well for that, that judicial panel, at least because you were part of it for about a year. To what extent, in terms of listening first to some of those petitioners, in terms of compensation and retribution, as it were, how would you rate particularly the Lagos panel? Because it would seem as though Lagos was an epicenter of the protests last year.
For me, I think that when we talk about justice, justice in action in accordance with law, and whether that law is grounded in societal norms or public opinions, that law is supposed to make sure that all members of the society receive fair treatment. For the Lagos panel, I mean, we can talk about retributive justice. Many people that came to the panel while I was there for about 3 months, they didn't even come there for the compensation. Nigerians that were at the panel just wanted the world, the public, to know that they were also victims of police brutality, and it's not just a myth. And then the fact that some of these people have been given an opportunity to air their complaints and and anger to the world shows that we're definitely doing something right. People, citizens, should be allowed to express themselves. They need to have access, to channels that enables them to report these cases, and that is very excellent. For me, on the part of the Lagos State Judicial Panel, with the number of cases that have succeeded to listen to, it is at least we're winning something. At least we are on the way. But then, like I said, and like I said earlier, it's funny that when we talk about for five, after 11 months, with the threat of fresh protests, fearing the high and anger of the Nigerian citizenry, National Economic Council hurriedly issued out some recommendations. This shows that the Nigerian state is merely reactive and not proactive. If young people did not come out on the streets, would they issue these recommendations? They do not see the need to improve policing systems in the country, and that is a fact. I would like to remind us that several protesters were arrested last year and are still arrested. They are still in jail up till now, charged on frivolous claims. Some were not even charged at all, just thrown in jail. And when we are talking about the 5 for 5, we talked about psychological evaluation in those 5 for 5 for former SARS officers. But then I think the young Nigerians made a mistake. We should have asked for psychological evaluation for our leaders as well, because they need it. A 17-year-old lady or a 17-year-old girl, teenager, was put in prison in Ondo State. She gave birth in that prison. Kemisola Oguni or something like that. She gave birth in prison in Nigeria State, a 17-year-old teenager. That is why I'm reiterating the psychological evaluation is needed for so many of our political leaders. Because what are they afraid of? Why are they afraid of young Nigerians demanding for change? Why are they afraid of peaceful protesters waving flag, just staying on the street and demanding that the endless, senseless killings stop? Thank you very much, Arius.
Well, let me take this to Okweyemi, because for a lot of people, they see NSAS essentially as a young people thing, and there's always talk about youth in governance and youth participating essentially in what we see day to day in government activities and government decisions. But for you, from that protest up till this moment, seeing what has played out, protest aftermath, the panel, there was meant to be another protest earlier in the year, and now this memorial anniversary. What do you feel, really, walking through memory up till this point?
Good morning. Aftermath of the protest, it has just been the same. It has just been the same. The government is still doing their same. I don't want to use that word. They are still doing the same thing. Like the same reason why the youth flooded the streets. They are still doing the same thing. No changes, nothing. And the panel, I didn't even believe in the panel actually, because the panel is actually set up by the government that is killing the citizens. So how are you the judge and you are the jury, you are the victim, it's not actually making sense, to be honest.
Well, Okwayemi, you listened to Mr. Ebolo Adeburuwa referencing that even the government actually testified before the panel, and he said he's a part of the panel. Rinu is also part of the panel, and I mean, to the much they have said, they've said that for them, they will ensure that justice is done, and they reference their experience during this. So when you talk about the outcome of perhaps your personal outcome, there are questions about the resolutions of the panel, which is still in the works, and what people feel, which, I mean, that there's clearly this disparity, I will say, between that. But let me bring this back to Tosi. I know there's a lot of emotions in the air today, but there are a lot of questions about how to bring those emotions into, resolutions, as it were, how to ensure that we can press government into doing certain things the right way. Rinu says that maybe we should have psychological evaluation for not just police officers, but for government. I recall NDLEA also saying that there should be some sort of drug tests for politicians and those who want to go into government. But I want to stay with the participation of young people in governance, because I think this will go a long way in ensuring that the demands of young people are met. What do you think young people should be doing now to ensure that, one, they participate in government and ensure that government does right by them?
All right. Well, like you said, it's very emotional. Okay. Coming to the studio, I just watched, I tweeted a video last year of a man whose son, a footballer, was killed by a trigger-happy policeman for no just cause. A young man who is dreaming, the guy is already playing, I think, for the national team, and he was killed. So what happened to the father? And I've said it before on this program that the demand to end SARS did not start last year. This started since 2015. And like you said, Rinu already said we should do psychological tests for them. We don't need psychological tests. Well, we can do that, but there's something that needs to be done to them. Their own children should also experience this kind of brutality. Let me tell you what happened during the critical bandit issues in Nigeria. Until when some of the kids of the popular politicians were being killed on the road, they did not set up Amotekun in the southwest. Because it is only the poor people that were shouting. Their kids, the kids of the politicians, are not on the street. I am a software developer. I train so many people, and I've been to the police station more than 5 times, even after this end SARS, to go and talk to these people. So it is beyond, even this, it is something that they are not experiencing the pain of what people are going through. During the end SARS protest last year, people lost their job. These young kids lost their jobs. I was working on a project on the island, and the project stopped because of end SARS. About 5 young people lost their job on that. The psychological pressure of waking up in the morning and going to protest every day, walking, trekking, because they want a nation that works for them. Now, back to your question, you want young people to be involved in governance. So, to be involved in governance, you contest for political positions. Who are the people heading and topping the political parties? How does young people have the financial capacity to put this together? So it is more of, the leaders who are supposed to be responsible, who are supposed to know what is right per time. Before the protest started, these things have been at the front burner. Most times you here have actually, invited people to talk about it. but nothing is changing. So young people are not even interested in joining the old people who are actually in politics for their pockets.
Let me quickly ask, well, this whole thing started because of police brutality. Would you say there's been any action persuasive enough from the police? Yes or no? What kind of engagement would you expect the police to initiate with the people, the youths especially, to be able to instill some measure of confidence?
Thank you very much, Shanias. It's been a year after the nationwide EndSARS street protest ended. But then let us ask young Nigerians, what is the status of police brutality in the country ever since? The police were first reeling from the protests from October towards November, but then it ended there. However, because of ineffective reforms and due system in place that is supposed to bring corrupt officers to book, on entry 2021, there was an increase in cases, and up till now, it has been steadily increasing. I said previously that just in September alone, from reports that I know of, over 10 young Nigerians, 10 future leaders, 10 leaders of tomorrow were killed extrajudicially by police officers across Nigeria. And right now, they're on a rampage of extortion, they're on a rampage of harassment from Lagos to all other parts of the country. The average police officer on the streets of Nigeria today earns at least $1,000 per day. That's up to 800,000 naira per day on the sweat of the common man, especially young Nigerians. They profile them, they harass them, they threaten them, they will take them to stations, force them to write incriminating statements. The police will even write a statement on your behalf, detain them unduly, torture them until their victims are forced and intimidated to bring out whatever amount they ask of. Young Nigerians are literally spending our lives fighting. We stood on the street last year to ask for an end to police brutality. But what did we get back in return? Bullets. We are exhausted physically and mentally. We are tired, but there's no respite. We are returning back to the unending circle of complaints on ineffective justice. And it is a shame that we have a sham of a government that has refused to take lessons from the protest and put in place new measures to curb the criminality of these police officers. Let us ask ourselves this question. If the police are scared and tries to scatter a few protesters in a large population on a peaceful protest, think of how scared young Nigerians are of the bad eggs in police force holding guns, killing us off every day. I do not think that the Nigerian police can do anything regarding police brutality. And that is my opinion. Why? Because the Nigerian police benefits from the indignity of young Nigerians, of the average Nigerian citizenry. We saw the case of Abba Kyari that happened just a few months ago. The corruption, the endemic corruption is high up in the police hierarchy. The Nigerian police cannot do anything to end police brutality because they benefit from it each day and each time. The climate of authoritarian governance in the country has enabled our police with license, has provided them, handed them the license to violate citizens' rights, to injure young citizens, maim, torture, and kill citizens with impunity. Look at the inadequate training and poor screening of our police recruits. We are recruiting psychologically and socially unstable persons into the police force who are prone to violence in the course of law enforcement. Our police force is understaffed, they are underfunded, they are under-equipped. The discipline and motivation of our police officers are suffering. Why? Because also there is a lack of political accountability by rulers. Our lawmakers are the lawbreakers, and this is encouraging lawlessness by government agents, encouraging police officers to act beyond the law. In our country, the average policeman is inadequately educated for the roles he's expected to play. Speak to an average police officer. They say nonsense with impunity. They are inadequately trained for the police work. They are poorly remunerated and equipped, and so they are resented by the public. Their ineffectiveness from their inadequacy of human resources, facilities, it also lowers the estimation of the police in the eyes of the public. Now, when we talk about all of this, not to mention the use of police to suppress socioeconomic discontent among workers, among students. Just last month, the Nigerian policemen and military were sent to Abia State and Plateau State Polytechnic. Abia State, where they raped a young female student, Plateau State Polytechnic, where a young student named the one David was killed. So this use of police to suppress discontent by the government often results in violence by and against the police. Police will definitely misuse their
So
arms and
staying with
ammunition. I know
fixing.
you will quote me that before the end of today, the police will still arrest, and torture young protesters all across the country today. So the police cannot do anything regarding police brutality. We should ask our lawmakers, are they focused on ending police brutality? It is
I
until
just
that
want to get it
accountability
clear.
system is set in place that police brutality can reduce.
So, I mean, speaking about fixing the police, you have raised some important issues. You said that the police is not capable of fixing itself. You also referenced the lawmakers that they're not capable of fixing the police. So, I mean, you have the 5 for 5 demands, and I think one of the goals here, aside bad governance, one of the goals here is also fixing the police, and that's something you also hear across other countries. So, if the police is not capable of fixing itself, you referenced that the lawmakers are perhaps not capable as well. The question then is, who should take this job on? And also, referencing the figure, I think you said $1,000. The average policeman makes $1,000 a day. I mean, that's huge. Like you said, that's over 500,000 and going back by the black market rate. So where is that figure from? How did you come about that data that the average policeman earns 500,000 naira daily?
Thank you very much. Starting from the fact, your question that who can fix our police? I did not say our policymakers or our leaders are not capable of fixing police brutality. I said that our lawmakers, Nigerian leaders, lack the political will to fix police brutality or issue police reforms. Why? Because they are benefiting from the indignity of average Nigerians. They are benefiting from the climate of oppression, from the climate of suppression, from the poverty, from the unending clamor for change. The Nigerian state is afraid of change because it knows that once change begins to occur, this reckless climate of impunity and recklessness, like I would call it, will always change. The Nigerian state, like I said, is afraid, and that is why they lack the political will. They are not even willing to do anything about it. On social media every day, there are reports, daily reports of police brutality. I'll give you an average figure. The average Nigerian police officer on the street arrests at least 10 young Nigerians, both male and female. And when they arrest them, no questions, no allegations made. They just take them off to the police station, or in some cases, start driving them around the streets and start threatening them. Threatening them with, I'll kill you and nothing will happen. We'll kill you here and we'll frame you up that you are an armed robber, or we'll frame you up that you were a Fulani herdsman. We'll frame you up with whatever. So the average Nigerian young citizen begins to shake. And then they demand for money, just said to us. They take them to the police stations as well, lock them up in cell and say, you just rot here, nobody will know. They take away their gadgets, refuse for them to call their lawyers, start writing incriminating statements against them by themselves. They don't even allow the victims to write incriminating statements. And these are evidences. I can bring out over 100 Nigerians. These cases are being documented daily across the media. And they will extort them, starting from amounts as ridiculous as 10 million naira. Then the Nigerian state have become, the Nigerian police officers, our own Nigerian police officers that are supposed to be our friends, that are supposed to be protecting us, they've become market people. They will start negotiating the amount from 10 million naira to 5 million naira, reducing it to 2 million naira. So it depends on your resilience, how you can withstand the pressure. By the time they start torturing people in front of you, shooting people, you of course need to pay them. And they are involved in blackmail as well. If you don't have the money, they will call your parents to be able to pay the amount. And of course, the average Nigerian parent is scared. They don't want their children to end up, in
incidentally,
so they'll quickly pay this amount and make sure that that average Nigerian citizen gets out of cell, gets out of police harassment. Like
Rinu,
I said,
I've also had my own fair share.
Returning to the unending circles of complaints and ineffective justice. What are Nigerians?
If I could comment right now, Rinu,
young Nigerians to
Pardon me. Incidentally, I've also had my fair share of police brutality. I mean, I've been slapped by a police officer myself, and I mean, that was taken up eventually. So this is the case for a lot of Nigerians as well, and it's quite emotional for not just you or me, for a lot of Nigerians, not just young Nigerians, in talking about police, but in presenting those points and in putting out the facts. If you say the average policeman arrests 10 Nigerians daily. 370,000 police population times 10. That's about 3.7 million Nigerians arrested daily by you get by 370,000 policemen. So in presenting those facts, there will always be questions as to how they are gathered, such that in the process of solving the problem, we don't present yet another problem that now needs to be fact-checked. And let me take this to the other discussant, so it won't sound as though I'm being partial here just on Rinu. Opeyemi, you've listened to Rinu, and I'm sure you've listened to a lot of other Nigerians. Okay, I understand that Opeyemi's connection is tricky. So let me come to Tosin right here in the studio. So listening to Rinu, you perhaps have your own experience as well. So there's what happened during NSAS, and there's the future as well. And I think that's what a lot of young Nigerians are fighting for, ensuring that, yes, maybe our parents didn't have it as good. Maybe we have not had it as good as we ought to so far. But there should be hope in the future. We shall have it as good in the coming days. So I'll still come back to the engagement and ensuring that, hey, this is the country we have, this is the nation we have, we need to fix it. Rinu has her opinions, she has put them out. What are your thoughts about moving forward with these issues?
Like Rinu said, justice has not been served. So, and if there is no justice, hope is lost. So I'm not sure with the caliber of leaders we have presently, there is any hope for this country. Now, let me tell you for facts what can easily, if there is a political will, to solve this problem, what can end police brutality? Let me tell you what we do. Any police station, we have divisional police. The police are in divisions. So any police station, there is 3 reports of police brutality in a month. The DPO, divisional police officer of that police station, should lose his or her job. If there is, it should not even be, it could be just disciplinary issue. Maybe you are demoted or something happens. So if that happens, that DPO will make sure next time, every DPO will sit up and make sure that there is nobody among his own subordinates that does that. Then we should now come to the area commands. If under your area command, there is 3 cases of police brutality within a month under your own area command, the area commander is supposed to either lose his job or be demoted. And if that happens also in a state police station, there is at least maybe 6 police brutality reported and confirmed. The commissioner of the police in that state should either be sacked or demoted. And even if it happens in the whole country, the inspector general of police should also be sacked for any of the brutality of any police officer anywhere in the country. I tell you for a fact, within 3 months, all of these things will stop. But who is ready to implement such a policy? Because the money they are collecting from the grassroots has its way to the top. And these are basic facts. Vaccine last year was, you were asking Rinu about how it came about police officers making $1,000 in a day. It might not be able to happen in other states, but it is possible in Lagos. Because I followed vaccine to the police station in Ogudu to collect almost 250,000 naira. The following month, I went with another person to collect almost 100,000 naira. So those are the people who have access to the internet to report the police extortion. So just imagine those who cannot, who doesn't even have access to the internet to report those extortions that are happening. Now let me tell you something. If you go to Ogudu police station, as I speak to you, the day we were there, we still saw the same police officer taking young people to the back of the police station, not even the police cell, to be negotiating and be collecting money. Who will fight for those people? Those facts might not be, the data might not be, might not be quantitative, but if you put it together based on what is happening, you will see that it is actually true. Most of those people you see on the tree make as much as 500,000 naira every day, which is about $1,000. So if the president, for instance, is interested in putting an end to it, what I just said about sacking or demoting those who are heading police stations, police command, state police command, to be demoted or sacked for any insubordination of those working under them, then there's going to be an end to this police brutality.
Well, clearly we still have a lot of issues on our hands that need to be resolved, but we'd like to thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And ensure that we continue this sort of engagement so we can have a better nation for all. Rinu Douala, who is a prominent NSAS campaigner, a member of the Lagos Judicial Panel, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, as well as Tosin Olugbenga, who is a software engineer and also a prominent NSAS campaigner. Thank you for your thoughts on the program this morning.
Thank you so much.